Okay, it is 7 o'clock. Welcome to the January 12th regular meeting of the St. Charles County Council. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First thing what we'll do is have an invocation. Unfortunately, a minister couldn't join us tonight, so if everybody would join me in a moment of silence, and then we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Amen. Mr. Brazel?
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. If we can have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam.
Here.
Councilmember Dave Hammond. Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Okay, first on the agenda tonight, we have election of the council chair. Is there a motion?
I'd like to nominate Joe Brazel.
Okay. Apparently, I was supposed to officially say I'd like to open the floor for nominations for the chair of the county council for 2015. Council members will make their nominations. Then a second is needed, call for further nominations, and then we'll have a vote. So
I'll still nominate Joe Brazel, even
Okay,
though I've
just-
had time to think about it.
are you sure? Are you really sure?
Don't go for a third time.
Is there a second to the nomination of Mr. Brazel?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Brazel's been nominated. Is there any other nominations for county chair? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Okay. Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel.
Yes.
Councilmember Elam.
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer.
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Okay. Should we go ahead and do the vice chair, or do you want to do it?
Do we do the vice chair?
You do the vice chair.
Great.
You switch.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Or whatever.
You want to take your vote? Okay, thank you guys for the confidence. I appreciate it. Moving on to, are there any nominations for vice chair?
I'd nominate Joe Cronin.
Second?
Second, are there any other nominations? Okay, all those in favor, I guess we do a roll call vote for Mr. Joe Cronin for vice chair?
Councilmember Cronin.
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel.
Yes.
Councilmember Elam.
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer.
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond. Not here. Councilmember Hollander.
Yes.
Councilmember White.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Cronin, you are vice chair of the county council. Okay, moving on to public comments. Are there any public comments to be made tonight on any county business, anything on the agenda? We will give you 3 minutes and we'll allow 3 people per side, opposed and in favor of. Who would like to go first? Patricia? Yeah.
Hi, my name's Patricia Fullhorst, and I'm here representing Lindenwood University's historic Daniel Boone home in Defiance. I'm here today because according to the MoDOT website, the public has until January 15th to make their comments on the proposed changes that they have in store on the Missouri Register. I just want to first mention how important signage is for the historic Daniel Boone home. As you may or may not know, we're located 10 miles off of Highway 40, off of Highway F, which is a long, windy road, country road. It's hard to find. We have 53.5% of our visitors are international or out-of-state guests. So for those to find us, it's kind of hard. The signage is essential to our survival with tourists. Not only do we bring tourists into our site, but pretty much anytime they're leaving the historic Daniel Boone home, they're visiting Augusta, Defiance, New Melle, local areas for lunch, shopping, dining, things like that. So I feel we are a draw within the county area. Now, the reason I'm opposing it is, or I'm urging you to pass the resolution opposing it, is because it does not make sense. It's hard to understand as far as exactly what entails. It does mention if you don't have 1 million visitors, you no longer will have signage. I did speak to somebody today, and I don't know if that's true, but according to the changes, it's not cut and dry. I just don't feel like it's worded correctly, very distinctly. Right now, we do have some minor signage, which is a standalone listing for the historic Daniel Boone home. So as you're on Highway 40, it just says historic Daniel Boone home. According to what I read and interpreted, after our contract has expired after 10 years, that sign will be taken down, and our little logo, which some people may or may not know what that logo means, will be lumped in a signage with food, gas, other attractions. So someone going 70 miles an hour down the highway, out of state, out of country even, is not going to know what the little triangle with Daniel Boone standing there and then see the little word historic Daniel Boone home. I feel like our standalone signage is beneficial to us. They're trying to take away that, adding just all the attractions to a larger sign. And I think it's going to hurt our site as well as some other sites. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments on the MoDOT, public comments on the MoDOT change and road signage? Are there any other public comments on the other subject with county business? Yes, sir.
Well, my name is Ray Reiniger. I live at 2168 South Point Prairie, Forestdale, and I'm here to talk about rezoning bill number 4172, which is approximately a quarter mile from my house. He's asking to have that rezoned to commercial for a used car lot. And I just don't feel that's a good fit for our area, being predominantly farm ground, rural, agricultural area. I just don't think a car lot in that area would be good for the owner. I don't feel there's enough business coming by there for the car lot, and also wouldn't be a good fit for the area. So I'd just like to ask you all to deny that zoning request when it comes up for the vote. Thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience who is in favor of Bill 4172?
Yes, my name is Richard Azar, and I'm the owner of 1319 Highway N. And I've owned this property since 1985, I think. And I've always kept it up. It always looks real nice. It's a very beautiful place. My house is beautiful. The property lays flat. I've always kept it clean, no junk, no nothing. And that's the way I would keep it with this car lot. Beautiful. I pray that the council will approve this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience who is opposed to Bill 4172? Yes, sir.
My name is Ben Branch. I live at 1363 Highway, and I'm 2 driveways west of this property. 4173, I oppose that. I would ask that the council would look at the minutes from the planning and zoning, that they had a lengthy discussion on this, and their decision was that this wasn't a good fit for the area. And like what he had already said, it is an agriculture area, and when I bought ground in '85, it wasn't a commercial site, or I probably wouldn't have bought there. And there's a lot of vacant car lots in the area, like Lake St. Louis, and if he's that desperate for a car lot, so I would hope that the council would follow the planning and zoning and deny this request.
Thank you. Is there anybody who is in favor of Bill 4172? Is there anybody like to speak who's opposed to Bill 4172?
Can I?
I'm Dennis Schultz. I live at 1977 South Point Prairie. I'm approximately about 200 yards due west. I built out there 4 years ago, not knowing it could be zoned for commercial. Maybe that's my mistake, but I think what the committee was looking at was something 10 years down the road, 2025. It's 10 years from now. How do we know what's going to go on? I think just going in there and giving variances for commercial car lots or anything, it's going to change the outlook of the area. You know, now it's pasture lands, it's horses, people on 3 or more acre lots. I just don't see how a used car lot right there at that intersection is, it's just not going to look right. It's not going to benefit anybody. Nobody's out there looking for a car. They're taking a drive going to a winery or something. So I'd have to say, being that close, I am opposed to it, and I hope you will be too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other people, last speaker in favor of Bill 4172? None? Sir, we can, when it comes up on the agenda, we'll allow you to speak if there's any questions for you at that time. Is there any other speakers who are opposed to Bill 4172? Who's opposed to it? You?
Good evening. My name's Larry Eckhoff. I live at 1400 Highway N, Barstow, Missouri, approximately 1/3 of a mile west of the property in question. And all I can basically say is that area is really not condoned to doing a business for a used car lot, truck lot. It's rural, it's country, it's peaceful. That's the way we really want to keep it for now. Okay. According to, success comes to the area, another 10 years, I know it'll be that long, then maybe we can talk, commercialization, but as of right now, that area is not ready for a used car lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on any other subjects?
Thank you very much, Chairman Brazel. Congratulations on your appointment election.
Thank you.
You might want to switch out the nameplates. A.C. Dienoff, county resident and public advocate. A couple things I want to bring to your attention are, on the agenda is a grant from the Secretary of State for our election authority. Last week, I heard Mr. Krismer state a public speech, and it's very concerning about the statements that were made. He talked about the 4 accounts that the county has set up with the Director of Finance. He cried on the shoulders of residents and stated that Bob Schnarr is crippled at his ability with no money to run the election in April. I disagree with this statement. He also stated in this public session that,
I can see him, he's just sitting.
I don't know what that was. Excuse me.
Which one?
Did you,
He's okay. He's all right, he's just sitting there. He's just sitting there. It's okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
do you want me to continue?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we thought.
I heard a big loud noise out there. I don't know what it was, but. He also stated that he was going to sue the county over the last resolution that was passed by this county council in December. And I've heard him say to other people that he was not going to use the members of the county council staff that we already employ and paid for. He was going to hire outside counsel. We already went through that a couple months ago, and there was a $12,000 bill outstanding. It's still questionable whether the county paid it or not. But I don't believe that we should, as taxpayers, pay for outside counsel for Mr. Krismer. If he's going to sue St. Charles County in its passing of its resolution, he should pay for his own attorneys out of his own money. I'd like to see that the balance of all 4 accounts that the Director of Finance, Bob Schnarr, to disclose and make public those balances to assure the public that our election does have the money to operate in April. I already requested the release of the election charge scale, and I still have not received it from Mr. Schnarr. Also on your agenda, there's 3 bridge replacement projects, 2 road projects, totaling $565,000 for engineering services that are outside of county workers. We have a certified state county engineer that we employ. These are just a few of the projects that we do on an annual basis. As our county grows, so does our maintenance projects. I purport that we can hire a road engineer, a bridge engineer, a architect, a surveyor, a CAD drafter to make up the plans, and a soil expert / project manager for $415,000 in salary and $50,000 in benefits. That would bring a total of $465,000, and we still would have $100,000 remaining in our coffers. Like I said, this is just a few of the projects that are coming down the pike this year. As we grow as a county, we're going to have more maintenance issues and more projects. It's something to look at and consider. I just feel that some of these consultants are out of the county, and we'd be better served to have employees hired by the county to do this engineering work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dienoff. Are there any other public comments to be made on county business? Okay, moving on to the oral report.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have Wayne come up, and I'll yield my time to him. I think he's going to introduce Art to make a report.
Okay.
So thank you.
In 2014, the council provided funding for the Community Development Department to obtain new software and hardware for the various functions of community development. As you know, this department consists of 4 divisions: neighborhood preservation, planning and zoning, development review, and building code enforcement. After an extensive search and review process, the county selected CitizenServe as our vendor to provide community development solutions for building permits, code enforcement, planning and zoning, land disturbance permits, contractor licensing, and request tracking. What we were looking for was a software and a hardware solution which would facilitate our records keeping and accomplishing that in a way that would make us more efficient and productive both in the field and in the office. In addition, it was also important in achieving this objective to move to a more digital platform and reduce paper documentation and files. Lastly, we wanted a software which would permit citizen access to various data and activity history and the ability to prepare and submit applications for various department processes online. Neighborhood preservation, also known as code enforcement, is the first division to complete installation and testing of this software, and we are now ready to integrate citizen access through the county's website for filing complaints and allowing a citizen to track enforcement case activity. The Neighborhood Preservation Division handles over 3,000 cases per year with almost 13,000 field inspections performed. While a citizen will not be able to delve into the case file detail, the Access portal should afford the answer to the typical question, is anything happening with the complaint I filed? Staff and council will have view accessibility to case detail, which will contain photos, letters, notice of violations, and citations that are issued. So if you, the council person, gets a constituent call regarding a specific address, you'll be able to review the case very quickly. It's a very intuitive thing, and quickly understand what is being pursued and the actions that have been taken by staff. Tomorrow, the citizen portal to permit citizen submittal of complaints and tracking enforcement activity will be opened. Art Genasi, the division director, will briefly discuss the highlights of this software on his operations, and will show you how citizens will be able to submit and follow enforcement activity. And after his presentation, I'll give you my expectation on what we are looking at as far as completing this process for the other 3 divisions. So, Art?
Good evening. Before you have a handout which will walk you through the slide. It's a short presentation. Also, there's another handout that was provided. That's the live demonstration that I'll walk you through very quickly as far as how a resident will be able to use the portal to access the information. First, to start, just some highlights of the software. It's as Wayne already pointed out, it's a user-friendly software. Much easier for our staff to train upon from our previous software. Previous software took roughly about 60 to 90 days to train our staff on it. This software, our training manual is about less than 30 pages, takes about 30 days or less to train, depending on your skill level. Also, in order to file a complaint, previously you had to file a complaint through the website. There was no tracking ability. The new software allows tracking ability. where the resident can actually log on, as Wayne had mentioned before, where you can log on and actually see the status of your complaint. So you can see where it is in the step, what step it is. Now, it does not allow you to drill down on that information for more details, but the resident can see that inspections are being done or the case is in court. Now, what it does allow also, though, is ability for the council will have full access. So if you need to see the detailed information as a view only, you can see that information online. Another ability from the software is the customizing of reports. I jumped a little slide early there. Before we used to have reports, they had to be actually put together through a Crystal application. These reports, the custom reports, are now generated by the vendor at no additional charges. We also have the ability for unlimited storage. Storage is off-site. It's not maintained within the county, so there is no maintenance of servers. It's also the servers are in multiple locations, so if one server goes down, it jumps to another server, so we don't lose our data. We always have access to our data. The new software also automates many of our clerical duties. Before, you'd have to have, our clerical would have to type up a notice, send out a notice of violation. Now the inspector can enter the information in the field and can generate a notice of violation right there in the field. They also have the ability to print in the field, so they can print their notices and postings in the field. Everything that's functioned through this software for our inspectors in the field, and I brought one example, which was the iPad. We utilize the iPad now. This is all the inspector has. This is where they enter their information. They can view all the files in the field. So, in fact, it can be done also with any other resident can also use the exact same ability to go through an iPad or an Android. So, it's a little bit easier for accessing all the information. The contact information, what we say is everything's held in one central location. Just give you a brief history of what we have now. The current software requires us, the inspectors to enter information. It goes into the actual software. We have to take pictures, of course, and we enter information. Our notices are kept in a separate area, in a different server. So when you contact myself for a status of a particular case, I have to pull a case history from that software. Then I have to go to the O drive, which is another server, pull the pictures and pull the notices, put it together in a quick summary to send to you. In this, I can pull it all up in one software. And I also have the contact information, where if I was looking for the contact information, the inspector makes contact with a resident in the field, they give them their phone number to call them. Used to have to look through the inspector's notes, go through the entire case history to find their phone number and their name. And this, it's all right there in the one software. I pull it up in one case file. The data is, you can export the data into an Excel, Word, or a PDF, so it's easy for, even a resident can do that. They can export the report, so if they want to see exactly what cases the neighborhood preservation has out there, active or closed, they can export it and also take a look. There's an improvement in the record keeping. The main improvement in the record keeping is using the voice to text. When the inspectors are in the field, the one thing you have is they have to type the information. Or they come back to the office, they have to type the information. Of course, you don't want to type a lot, so you summarize very briefly your notes. There might be a lot more details they're missing when they're out in the field. In this case, the software, they can just voice the text, goes right into the system. You're going to get much better detail on our cases from the field. Field printing, I kind of covered that briefly, but everything can be handled in the field by inspectors. We have remote printers in the vehicles right now. The inspector can sit there and they can print a posting, so they run across a dangerous situation, they need to post a property and state that you should not occupy that property. They can do that actually in the field, the system, and it automatically updates the system. So even in-house, we already know it's been updated. Owner information is updated from the assessor's records. One of the issues we have with our current software, it's hard to, it's the compatibility. There's a compatibility issue with the assessor's software and the current software system. With this software, we can update it monthly. In fact, it's part of the contract. The assessor's information is updated, our information is updated once a month. So then we have updated owner information. Previous software, we'd update maybe once every 6 months at best. So now we have more accurate information. We're also allowed to have real-time scheduling, so you can schedule when you're in the field, or you can schedule actually re-inspections when you're out there. So if something doesn't pass, you're talking to the owner or the resident at that time, or the occupant, and they want a re-inspection, you can schedule it right there in the field. I passed up one part, was mapping. I jumped to one slide earlier. They actually have the ability to find, locate the actual address of a complaint. If they're in the field, I'm at one particular address and need to go this, they actually have Google Maps on their iPads. It's also part of this software. So when you pull it up, and you pull up an address, you can click on there, you go right to the Google mapping, and you can get directions from right where you're located. Now I'm going to jump to the CitizenServe Access, and this is going to be the portal that's going to be open for the residents. If you'd like to follow along, there's a little handout here that has the screenshots of where I'm starting from. I'll kind of walk through it. If you start, this is the home page. There's a link from the county's website to go directly to this home page. If you look at the top left, you'll see, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that from here. To switch because the glasses were close. If you see the top left, it's neighborhood preservation. So if I'm a resident, I come in, I want to log in, or I go to that home page, I jump right to the neighborhood preservation site. In this, you have a couple different options. You can submit a complaint or you can search for cases. Now, the options here, the one thing it's kind of important to note that you'll see that we still have the ability, it's hard to see up there, but if you'll see to the lower about 3 paragraphs down, you can file an anonymous complaint, which goes directly to our website, or you can file a complaint online, which is actually through this software. Because we have a lot of residents, obviously, that don't want to provide their name, so we still have the ability to file anonymous complaints. So if I'm going to walk through from here, submit a complaint, just show you how quick it can be done. So when I want to submit a complaint, I have to register, I have to provide my name and a password. I click, I log right in, and here I am on the complaint form. Now this will confirm your address. So you cannot enter a complaint for an address that does not already exist in the assessor's database. So in this case, we're going to try to go to 201 North 2nd Street. They have a lot of violations there. So if I click on 201 North 2nd Street, and if I hit enter or submit, you'll see it'll pull up 201 North 2nd Street. So we know that's inactive, or it's confirmation that there's actually a legitimate address there. This is where you file your complaints. So we go to the complaint form, then the description of the violation. I can enter, failed to remove their Christmas lights after January. How's that?
They'll be down by Friday, sir.
Just checking.
Is that really an ordinance?
No, sir.
He was worried there for a second.
Yeah, I need to get home real quick.
That way you have Klinghammer instead of Brazel. So you enter your description there. You select what type. Now, if you'll note below here, it says select file. Now, this is where a resident can attach. If you click that, you can choose a file. You can select. You can attach a picture, or you can attach a document if you like. You can browse and attach. Now, you submit a complaint, you're done, the complaint's been submitted, that's it. You've submitted a complaint. Yes, sir?
Can you submit a complaint anonymously over the online system?
Yes.
You can.
Yeah, I can go back, I'll run through one real quick with you, and
Okay.
once I go through the tracking.
And one other question
Yes,
is,
sir.
if you're a resident that had a complaint filed against you, can you communicate with your department and say, oh, by the way, I got that junk car towed out of my place, you can come by and check it when you want? Is that something that can be done too?
Yes.
Okay, great.
There's a portion here where you can send a message where you don't have to call us, but you're going to have the email of the inspector plus their phone number on that notice of violation. But they can also just handle it right over online. So in this case, we've already submitted a complaint. Now let's say I want to track that complaint. So if I want to jump, I have a couple options here on tracking a complaint. I can go to my account, which in this case we have Joe Citizen, and we say view my request. Well, if I view my request, Joe Citizen's been very busy. He files a lot of complaints against 201 North 2nd Street. But you'll see, this is what, if you're logged into the system and you're registered, you can see the complaints. In this case, I'll select one. It'll give you an example. You click on the file number. We don't want to click on that one. And this has been the last one, which you'll see, new online request. That'll show you the activities. It's a new online request. It was filed today. The description of the violation, failed to remove Christmas lights. Now, if you'll see in that top, and here's the question you have, Mr. Cronin, say leave a message. If I clicked on leave a message, I can type in a message to the inspector, and this goes directly to the inspector that case was assigned to. So any message that's sent in here, whoever was assigned to goes directly to the inspector. And that's important for a couple reasons. Say an inspector accidentally closes a case, or the inspector sees something on one side of the house and says, no, it's in compliance, and they close it out, and the resident says, no, hey, it was on the other side of the house also. Well, they can send a message to the inspector, let them know, hey, I noticed online it says this case is closed. There's still a violation on the other side of the house. It goes directly to the inspector. And then also it comes to me as well. So then we can view it. The inspector can open the case back up and go back out there and check. In this case, I submit a message. Remember I mentioned briefly about viewing the map. You'll see right below the picture of the 201 North 2nd. If you click that, that pulls up your Google Maps. Shows you the location exactly where the complaint is. And you can click on the satellite view so you can also see it from the, you can see the different buildings. At any time, if I want to go view a request without having to log in, I jump back to the home screen. I go to neighborhood preservation, and I search for cases. Here I do not have to log in. So when you log in, the purpose of this is, again, to remain anonymous. Say you don't want to provide your name, you don't want to register, you can go to this and search for any case you want. You don't have to provide your name or any contact information. So you can jump to here as a resident and say you just want to check all cases. Now this is a fairly nice option. I'm making a note on your handout that less is more on the search. So in this case, I just hit 201. I'm not even going to put a street name in, and I'll put in the property maintenance. You'll see I'll pull up all the cases that have to do with 201. Now in this case, this top case, you'll see 201 Oakboro. That's actually an active case. Well, it was closed. It's an actual real case. The ones below that are actually test cases. So if I click on 201, well, I shouldn't say the address, I'm sorry. You'll see this is the actual activity of that case. It opened, actually it was opened in previous software and it was transferred over to this software. You'll see there was a reinspection on October 17th. There was a summons issued on October 21st. Court reinspection on December 1st. You walk all the way down the line. It was finally brought into compliance and it was closed out. It looks like, I guess on January 8th, the case was closed out. Now, if I want to see what violations were listed, you want to go to the violations tab. You click on violations tab. You saw it was closed out and it was complied. It was an outdoor storage violation. Are there any questions right now? Okay. I have a question. Yes, sir.
Steve has a question. Oh, I'm sorry. I was reading it. Go ahead,
I'd
Steve.
like to be recognized. Okay. Art, is, you know, when people come in here, come up to the podium and complain about, you know, they've been picking on me and I really don't have any problems. Is there any way we could go straight to this and put a picture of their house or whatever the problem is?
Yes.
Because normally what happens is we listen to them and then we get together with you between meetings and you show us the pictures and everybody says, well, my goodness, that's a mess. Could we put the pictures right up?
Yes.
Right up
Absolutely.
there, right
Yeah,
after
what you're
they-
viewing here is a live version. I believe I have another, well, I can pull it up. This is actually the live version of the software. So what we just saw, the one case I pulled up, that was actually in the system. So what I entered right now, when I entered that test case, it actually went to the secretary.
Okay.
It's going to go to her.
So somebody comes up and complains and someone wants to see it, you know, we could just put it up there right then and there.
You go through the pictures, go through the notices, and see the case history.
Okay, good.
Were there any other questions?
Any other questions, anybody?
Quick comment, really. I got to say, I love the transparency on this. Used to be complaints kind of went into a black box and you didn't know what happened. You couldn't see it. And as we, you know, it takes a long time sometimes to get compliance. You know, you got to go through multiple postings and got to give them a chance to try to fix the problem before it goes to court. And sometimes these things get drug out for many months. From a transparency standpoint, I love this thing. I think it is fantastic. And it'll make our job easier also, because I know a lot of times we field those complaints and people want to complain to us, and this way we'll be able to get back to our residents, our constituents as well. So I'm pretty excited about this. This is a good thing.
Just to wrap up, we think we're going to wrap up the other three divisions potentially in March, and we'll be back to give you just some highlights of those processes. Those are not the enforcement types. They're more applications that people would submit for rezoning or for building permits, and we'll give you some highlights of those processes and how that software is working for those divisions, potentially in March or April of this year.
Mr. Cronin?
There's only one problem, Wayne. with all this technology, I won't have any reason to call you anymore, and I enjoy our conversations. You've taught me the codes of this county one issue at a time, and I appreciate that.
You can still call me, and I'll be glad to take your calls, because maybe I'll just be twiddling my thumbs waiting for somebody to ask me a question.
Any other comments or questions?
Chairman, could I
Yes.
mention one other item? You know, Wayne's walked through Citizen Serve, which incorporates all of their permitting processes and everything within community development into one platform. We've also this past couple of months launched a function within the regular website that's now handling complaints through the county highway department. So if you needed to report curb issues, trees down, that sort of thing, you can also do that now on the county website. It functions somewhat similar to how Art's describing, that you can track your complaint and the status of things. And that will be rolling out in other departments for other issues outside of the highway department in the coming months.
Joe,
Thank you, Jennifer.
one other thing.
Yes,
real quick. I know from a marketing standpoint, neighborhood preservation sounds a lot nicer than code enforcement. The only thing that, from a intuitive standpoint, when one of our citizens looks at it for the first time, I'm not sure that they know what neighborhood preservation really means, because I would take that as somebody that was born and raised here in the old part of St. Charles, that would have something more to do with historical, making sure everything stays from a history standpoint. So I'm questioning whether or not people really know what it means, or is there another place that it says this is code enforcement?
It's actually at the homepage on the website.
Okay.
There's a description of the activities of neighborhood preservation along with the other divisions of community development. Now, that doesn't say that we can't add something next to an AKA code enforcement on the homepage of the website and also in the software to help guide them through that.
We'll just see if people have questions about it, and maybe it's something that over time we can lead them into knowing that neighborhood preservation is in fact code enforcement.
Sure. Yeah, the intent is so they have access and know how to get that
Right.
information, who to go to. So hopefully we can change.
Okay.
Thanks, Art. Any other questions for Art? All right, Art, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Yes. That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Steve. All right, moving on to consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Don, can you make that change? Carol, noted on the notes?
Yes.
Okay, the consent agenda has been approved. Moving on to bills for introduction. We'll go for the first bill. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Resolution.
Yeah, we have a resolution. I apologize. You want to read the resolution?
Yes, Resolution 15-01, sponsored by Joe Brazel, Mike Elam, and Mike Klinghammer, a resolution opposing proposed rules published in the Missouri Register on December 15, 2014, relating to a supplemental guide sign program proposed by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission.
Any comments or questions about the resolution?
I have a question. Don, you'd have to deal with these folks. Is this resolution going to affect your ability do you think that there'll be any harm, that the Missouri Highway Transportation Department have any problem with us passing this resolution? Is that what we're trying to tell them what to do? Would they take any offense at it?
No, they'll probably be mad at us for other reasons, but I don't think so for this.
Okay, so no issues there then?
No, I don't believe it'll cause any problem.
I think they're trying to get this resolved, are they not?
Well, yeah, I was going to talk about that.
Okay.
There was somebody sent out, Joanne or somebody sent out, or no, I'm sorry, Donna.
From Mr. Evers.
There was some points that they made that they're going to go back to, that it says you got to have 1 million visitors per year. And we're talking about the state highway signs, like for instance, it says historic downtown Augusta. Those signs would go away. Historic Daniel Boone Home, they don't get 1 million visitors a year. So what they did was on the new revision, it says 25,000 visitors a year. Well, the Daniel Boone Home don't get 25,000 visitors a year. And how are they going to ever get to, they're close to that level, they're at 20, 22. But how are they going to get to that level if they got to remove all their signs? And so it doesn't make any sense, and nobody can figure out why they're even doing it, because they say it's going to save money on the maintenance of a sign, but they're going to go around and take them all down. So I don't even know what maintenance signs require, but, and then the revision is so confusing that you don't even understand what they're talking about. Do you?
There's some points that, yeah, are not clear. Like, once your contract is over, do you have to repay for a new sign to be made? Who's paying for the new sign, you know?
That's the other thing, Mr. Cronin, is just on the revisions. It says that they're on the new letter they sent out, they're saying, well, we'll allow you to have the sign, but then when your contract expires, it's going to get removed. So, I mean, we're talking about like Lindenwood, Lewis and Clark, all the historic sites in St. Charles. So all those signs, they don't get 25,000. They may or may not, but who's going to be counting the visitors? It doesn't make any sense. And so that's what the resolution, the posting on the website is asking for input. And now all we're doing is a representative of people in my area, I'm representing all the whiners were pretty upset about it, so we're just sending out the resolution saying we're opposed to these changes on page 2123 and 2131, basically.
Right. Yeah, I've heard from several people also, and I think that it's just unclear about what MoDOT really wants to do with signage. And I've read some of the comments that went back and forth, and as I understand it, they're going to go back and take another look at it and come up with a policy that is a little more clear and hopefully is one that is friendlier to the attractions that we have in St. Charles County.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Steve.
My experience is that they kind of make up the rules as they go along. We made those changes out at Mid Rivers Mall in 70, and I don't know if you remember, eastbound traffic took them a while to figure out that if you want to go to the mall, you go under the bridge and then come off. And I don't know, because the sign said Veterans Parkway or something like that, and we asked them several times, can't you simply put mall? That's why we did the thing in the first place, so people could get to the mall quicker. And they said, no, that's a profit-making venture. We can't advertise them. And so I asked them, well, isn't Busch Stadium a profit-making venture? You got a sign that says Busch Stadium, and they got another one that says Six Flags.
Right.
So they got Six Flags and Busch Stadium, but I didn't say Mid Rivers Mall, just mall, a mall. And, finally, we wrote them a letter and we argued with them a little bit, but by that time, people had kind of figured out how to get where they needed to be. So my experience is they're making these rules up as they go along, so we need to really watch and see what comes out of this.
Yeah, one of the other new revisions also stated that if you have a sign on like 4061 or 70, if you don't have 300 visitors a year, the new revision is then that sign comes down too. And again, the Daniel Boone Home has a sign on Highway 40, and that would have to come down. So I hope this resolution, I know it's somewhat vague, but I hope it covers pretty much our basis, because we're pretty much just opposed to with the changes, because nobody understands why they're doing it. Okay, Donna.
Resolution 1501, a resolution opposing proposed rules published in the Missouri Register on December 15, 2014, relating to a supplemental guide sign program proposed by the Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember Elam?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Resolution passes. Moving on to bills for introduction. Bill number 4170.
Bill number 4170, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to C2 General Commercial District as per application 24919.
Any questions or comments on Bill on 4170 and 4171? I have personal interest in those, so I'll be abstaining from any votes or any commentary. If the council has any questions for me, I will go down there and answer them if that's needed, or you can read the minutes and so forth. Moving on to Bill 4171.
Bill number 4171, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance granting conditional use permit 24919 for boat rental and leasing and a single-family residence to Grapevine Wine Bistro and Visitor Center LLC in care of Joseph T. and Kelly Brezel.
Any comments or questions on Bill 4171? Moving on to Bill 4172.
Bill number 4172, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from A Agricultural District to C2 General Commercial District as per application 25013.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4172? Mr. Azar, I know you said you wanted to make a couple comments. Go ahead, your bill's on the floor.
Well, first of all, I feel like this envision is overdue for commercial in that general vicinity. I feel like it should have been zoned commercial the first time I tried this, which was several years ago. I feel like I haven't seen any farmers moved in with livestock, pigs, chickens in the last 15 years. I feel like this area is turning commercial faster than really the law can allow, with all the housing being built and the growth that's continuing to evolve out there. So I feel like this, commercial zoning request is long overdue. So, like I said, I'm hoping and I'm praying that this council approves this request.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other comments from the council? As I represent District 2, that area is, the master plan calls out commercial in 2025. So it's a prediction in 10 years that corner would be commercial. However, there is no commercial in that area. It's all agriculture, and it's mostly large lots. Planning and zoning turned it down. Everyone voted against it. And in representing my constituent base, I will not support this because it's just not it's not congruent to that area. And that's just my opinion. Just so the folks know out there, this is the first reading. The next reading is the last Monday. What is the date?
26th.
The 26th of January will be the last meeting on this issue, and at that time is when we vote on it. So there's 2 readings, just so you know. So, and again, if you want to come to the meeting, I hate to have you keep driving in here, but it's just the rules. Any comments or questions from the council? Okay, moving on to Bill. This is same 4173.
Bill number 4173, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance granting a conditional use permit 25013 for automobile and truck sales to Richard J. and Sherry C. Azar.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4173? Seeing none, moving on to Bill 4174.
Bill number 4174, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance amending the 2011, 2012, and 2013 annual action plans for St. Charles County, Missouri, in its capacity as urban county for fiscal year 2011 through 2013 under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, authorizing the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with the action plan, and further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the amendments to the 2011, 2012, and 2013 annual action plans.
Are there any questions or comments on Bill 4174? Seeing none, moving on to Bill 4175.
Bill number 4175, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance authorizing execution of an amendment to the subrecipient agreement with the City of St. Peters to allocate additional funds for additional transportation services as part of St. Charles County's Urban County Community Development Block Grant, CDBG program.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4175? Seeing none, moving on to Bill 4176.
Bill number 4176, requested by Wayne Anthony, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance relating to housing and community assistance, and 1, approving the 2015 annual action plan for St. Charles County, Missouri, in its capacity as an urban county for fiscal year 2014 through 2016 under the Community Development Block Grant Program of the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, and authorizing the county executive to execute all documents or certifications required for submittal to HUD with the action plan, and 2, further authorizing the county executive to execute the funding approval agreements that HUD shall require upon approving the 2015 annual action plan.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4176? Seeing none, moving on to Bill 4177.
Bill number 4177, requested by Rich Necco, sponsored by Joe Brazel, an ordinance setting final assessments on properties within the Meadowbrook Estates Road Neighborhood Improvement District, finding that the Meadowbrook Estates Road Neighborhood Improvement District road project is substantially completed, accepting for public maintenance the improvements to Meadowbrook Estates Lane, Kelsey Ann Court, Singer Lane, and Meadowfield Lane built for that project, assessing the costs of that project against the properties liable therefor, and providing for the collection of such special assessments.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4177? Seeing none, moving on to Bill 4178.
Bill number 4178, requested by Bob Schnur and Rich Krismer, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance approving intergovernmental agreements with the Missouri Secretary of State for grants awarded to the Director of Elections in the amounts of $46,923.04 for assistance in meeting the requirements of Title III of the Help America Vote Act, HAVA, and $31,334.92 for assistance in improving election processes, election efficiency grant.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4178? Seeing none, moving on to Bill 4179.
Bill number 4179, requested by Hope Woodson, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute a memorandum of understanding between St. Charles County and the Missouri Department of Corrections for vaccination and testing of the department's employees, volunteers, and interns.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4179? Seeing none, moving on to Bill 4180.
Bill number 4180, requested by Karen Grimm, sponsored by council as a whole, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute a project contract with St. Charles Community College for services provided by the Next Generation Career Center, NGCC.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4180? Seeing none, moving on to Bill 4181.
Bill number 4181, requested by Mike Klinghammer, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance placing on the August 2nd, 2016 ballot the question of authorizing the levy and imposition by St. Charles County of an annual fee not to exceed $50 on certain residential properties to provide for the costs of repairing individual lateral sewer service lines connecting those properties to public sewers, authorizing the levy and imposition of such fees as provided herein, and authorizing the county executive to execute intergovernmental agreements with municipalities that provide sanitary sewer services for the collection, administration, and use of such fees for the repair of lateral sewer service lines.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4181?
I've got one.
Yes, Mr. Cronin.
I read the bill, and nowhere in the bill did I see insurance. And I think we might want to take that out of that description, because I wouldn't want to be one to be forcing people to buy insurance like the folks in Washington do. So I believe it's just levying a fee in case their pipe breaks, that it pays for it. But unless I'm incorrect, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we're doing insurance. It's actually paying we're levying a fee that will pay for the damages if it should occur.
I think it says insurance because it's set up as an insurance program where the fees go into an account, and then that account is what pays it out. Go ahead.
You done? Mike?
Yes.
Who is this? Don, is this you? Is this, I do want to understand, is this elective? Do you choose to get into this program or not?
The voters will actually vote to decide whether or not to implement this program. This program has been, and Councilmember Klinghammer can speak to this issue, this program has been instituted by a number of municipalities in the county. I don't think there's ever been a public vote where this wasn't voted through. It's wildly popular. For a nominal fee, you're able to assure yourself that if your sewer lateral breaks or malfunctions, that the public entity will pay for that repair. In the case of St. Charles, Councilman Klinghammer, didn't they institute the program and then cut the fee back
Yeah.
because it was so?
Yeah, we started it off at $28 a year, and it has been reduced and has been in the $20 range ever since. It is very, very popular. A lot of people don't have the $3,000 to $4,000 that it is the average cost of a lateral repair. Having an account set up for that already is been a salvation for a lot of people. It is, again, ours would be up to $50, but I think when they go through and do the math on it, it's actually, that's the enabling legislation. The actual cost of it will, I believe, be significantly less than that.
So is this for mostly, this is for unincorporated county?
It's for, currently, and the reason this came up was we had discussions with the city of St. Peters, and Councilmember Hammond was there. They have an area outside of the city limits of St. Peters. It's in the unincorporated area, but they service that area with wastewater services. It was a purchase of a system 20, 30 years ago. And they have some failures in that system. And what St. Peters would like to do would be able to offer this sewer lateral insurance to those residents, but they are unable to do so because they're outside of their jurisdiction. So this would allow St. Peters to, if they have a program for themselves, that would allow them to offer that service to those people in that area, St. Mary's subdivision, I think is what it is.
But does this, what I'm asking is, if this passes, does every resident in the county have to pay this fee?
No, only.
You elect to get into it.
You're only if you're involved with a, Harold, only if you're involved with municipal services at this time.
That's correct.
Right.
Cities can extend their sewers beyond city limits. This allows effectively the city's program to charge a fee to fund an insurance pool that now insures their own residents to use that same program for residents in unincorporated county who are served by the city sewer lines.
We're not going to offer this service to anybody out there.
Okay, so like if you live out in a rural area and you're close to a sewer line, but you're on a septic tank, are you?
No.
We're not talking about that?
No.
Okay.
But just, go ahead.
Sorry, will this cover like the Duckett Creek folks?
It will not. That's a great question, Councilmember Elam. In the initial discussions with Councilmember Klinghammer and Hammond, we thought we were going to include Duckett Creek's customers. And Duckett Creek went through the legislative process in the General Assembly and got legislation passed that allows for them to have a vote of their own for their district. And they want to go through that program first within their own district. And then later on, they may want to be added into this. But we specifically had this language built just for municipalities.
Okay.
Yes, Mr. Cronin.
But just to be clear, if the voters approve this, it works kind of like a NID vote. Everybody who's served by those sewer systems is going to have to pay the fee. If I'm correct. They can't elect to or not to. They're going to have to pay it if it passes, right?
That is correct.
Okay?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Except that the fee charged by the county has to match the city's fee. It cannot, the county by statute has the authority to approve a fee of up to 50, but this ordinance only authorizes the county to charge the same fee as the city with which the county contracts. So that county and city residents are going to be alike.
And I understand it. I understand it's a great thing for a lot of older communities that have collapsing laterals. But just to be clear about it, if somebody builds a brand-new house and they run a lateral and they think, you know, I put Schedule 80 pipe in there, it's never going to break, they're still going to pay that fee, right?
Yes.
Okay. They can't elect in. It's not like other types of insurance or like medical insurance used to be. You could either buy it or you couldn't buy it. This thing passes the voters, you're going to have to buy it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're serviced by a municipality.
Right.
Right.
Any other comments on Bill 4182? Okay, moving on to Bill 4182. We're moving on to Bill 4182.
Bill number 4182, requested by Steve Ellman, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance amending various sections of Chapter 200, Ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, relating to St. Charles County law enforcement.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4182? I would just like to point out to everybody that this is the first time in the history of this county that we've had a sheriff and a police chief sat next to each other. That's great. Right?
They're not arguing yet.
Does anybody got any comments on Bill 4182? Do you guys have any comments, Captain or Chief or Scott? No? We're good. Okay. Well, I have a hard time. I always call you Captain. I just, all right. All right, moving on to Bill 4183.
Bill number 4183, requested by Dave Todd, Scott Lewis, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance amending the 2015 budget adopted by Ordinance 14-109 for positions within the St. Charles County Police Department and Sheriff Department.
Any questions on Bill 4183? Okay, moving on to Bill 4184.
Bill number 4184, requested by Steve Ellman, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute franchise agreements with Union Electric Company doing business as Ameren, Missouri, and Laclede Gas Company.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4184?
Mr. Chairman, let me tell you that the council will have the agreements by Friday, or if they're not ready by then I told both companies that we would ask you to table it and not pass it to the first meeting in February.
Okay, thank you, Joanne. Any other comments or questions? Moving on to Bill 4185.
Bill number 4185, requested by David Todd, Scott Lewis, Steve Ellman, sponsored by Mike Klinghammer, an ordinance amending Ordinance 02-057 by authorizing the execution of an amended contract for the establishment of a multi-jurisdictional drug task force to be known as the St. Charles County Regional Drug Task Force.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4185?
Mr. Chairman, similarly on this, Sheriff Lewis is the chairman of the Drug Task Force Board from his days as Cottleville chief and remains reelected to that. He is taking some of the changes that he and I noted needed to be made in this bill back to the board in a week or so, on Wednesday. And if there's any changes, then we may ask you to table this, but otherwise the agreement ought to be finalized at that.
Okay, Sheriff or Chief, you guys, any comments or anything? None? You guys got any questions or comments?
It's really good to see you guys working together like this.
And the world did not collapse.
It's early.
It's still January, Captain Chief. All right.
Chief.
I know, I keep doing that.
Yeah,
It's been 16 years I've been calling him Captain.
Don't feel bad. He signed something the other day, Captain Todd, rather than Chief. So.
Okay, any other questions or comments on Bill 4185? All right, seeing none, that concludes bills for introduction. Moving on to tabled bill. Are there any tabled bills to be removed? Seeing none? Are there any miscellaneous or comments? John?
I would just like to comment and compliment Mike Klinghammer for a good job he did this past year, guiding us through the whole year. And I know there were some difficult times, and I'm glad you were there to guide us through. And we wish the two Joes best of luck in the coming year, and we have a very prosperous and happy new year.
Well said.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second, we are adjourned. Thank you.
That was Mike Gillum and, who said it? Mike Gillum?
Hey,